Hey everybody, welcome to the Better Humanhood Podcast. Thank you for sticking with me. I realize that I've been absent for a few weeks. Largely that's because we recorded this thing with SETH, HORAN, and then ran into some technical difficulties, and I decided to focus primarily on doing stuff like, leaving town and having a vacation, enjoying myself, and then I finally came back and figured out how to extract the audio. And I haven't been ignoring you. I just felt like taking a little breather, but we'll be back regularly. We'll get this together and out and all that stuff. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I've known Seth for a long time, and we hadn't, we communicate, but hadn't really chatted in a while, and we figured, if we had to make a podcast an excuse, then we did that. And the deal with Seth is he is a solo bassist, singer, songwriter. That means that he does what you're used to seeing people with an acoustic guitar do, but he does it with an electric bass. He's amazing. I've known him since he started traveling out of town for open mics. When I met him originally, he was living in Buffalo, New York, and I was living in East Hampton, Massachusetts. And we met at a cafe called Fire and Water in Northampton, Mass. And someday, maybe we'll do more of a story on that, because not only was it a formative space for me, it has its own story, and we don't talk about any of that here. But what we do talk about here is, I've talked in this space about the procedure before, but we get a little more raw and a little more, just locker room, like dudes talking, and we get a little more explanatory there, and we talk about art, and Seth's wife is a talented painter and sculptor, and we talk a little bit about what she's been up to, and we just get into a lot of different stuff. And I didn't even check to see how long this is, because all I get is measures, and I could frankly do the math, but like 2,400 bars times 120 beats a minute divided by times 4 beats per bar divided by 120 beats per minute. I don't know. Probably gonna run an hour and a half. I don't know. You'll see you'll see when you download this thing anyway, right? So, you should go support Seth on Patreon. That's where he's releasing his music these days. He came up through this weird time in the music industry where he decided not to go with a record label. Then he went with a record label. Then he said, "Oh, that was terrible." And then Napster happened, and then Pandora and Spotify happened, and then all this other stuff just popped up. And it's hard to make a living out there as an artist. And so we talk about a little bit about why he's using a Patreon funding model, and why he doesn't really get to tour much, even though he used to basically live in his van touring. And I should really just shut up and let you listen to this thing. But I will have links over at joshshear.com. And just make sure you go check some of his stuff out. He does a monthly web concert for patrons. Also, go check that out. He has one coming up that he's open to non-patrons to buy tickets. I'm going to try to scooch this thing out before then. That'll be on June 2nd. So I'm hopefully going to have this out before then. And Yeah, go listen to my conversation with Seth HORAN. Yeah, I was thinking, like, we've known each other like 20 years. It's
Jesus.
fucking scary, right?
That's crazy. Has it
Yeah.
really been?
Well, you were in, I mean, I was in LA with you and Emily just before 9/11, which means that we'd known each other before that a couple of years. So,
Well, we met shortly after I started going to Fire and Water in Northampton.
yeah.
And I started going to Fire and Water in Northampton. God, that would have been around
98, 99.
98, 99. Oh my God, it's 2018.
This doesn't even sound like a real year from then.
All right.
My God.
Great talking. I'm out.
Now that you're feeling real old, hey, you still have your hair and
Most of it.
and your beard seems nice and dark.
Well, seems.
Okay.
Let me get a little closer to the camera. I'm starting to get the mange. I'm definitely starting to get the mange around the fringes.
Yeah, mine's pretty gray when I grow it in at least on the sides there. But yeah, oof.
Nobody can see us, right? This is audio
Right?
only.
Yeah, yeah. But we can see each other. It's weird. Well, usually I use Zoom to record because it records natively, and it kicks out a separate audio and a separate video track.
Oh, okay.
And if if for whatever reason you're overtaxing the processor, you can just turn off the video and hear each other during the call, and it goes back and forth.
But you're not using that now, right?
Nope, no. No, we're using Skype.
You're actually recording in Skype.
Well, I'm using a third-party thing to record Skype because Skype doesn't record, right?
I didn't think so. I have Audio Hijack. I've been using that with some success.
Okay, well,
but there's a few different programs you can check out.
I'm using Ecamm. I've never tried that, so we'll see how it goes. And hey, worst comes to worst, we can just you can share yours and
whichever.
And
whichever. Yeah. So you're recovered.
Yeah. Man, I guess we should start there, huh? Because that's why we. I believe the impetus for this was, hey Josh, you're getting a catheter in a ball sack.
No, the subject heading of the email just simply said catheter in the ball sack.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm doing pretty good. We got in racquetball at full speed yesterday for the first time. So
congrats.
That's and I was a little wiped out this morning, but hey, it's the way we do, right?
You're back to full mobility.
Yeah, and tomorrow's 3 weeks, so like
you can't. You're done using it as an excuse for anything, really.
Yeah.
Hey, good man.
Yeah. The surgical version is like on your back for 4 to 6 weeks, and then you can kind of start. So the fact that they can do this is incredible. There's actually a surgical version of what they did where they cut open, they cut you open like where they would for taking your appendix out, and they go up in through there and clamp the artery and get rid of the pool where the varicose vein is, and then they find a bypass to reroute the blood. The version I did, they poked a hole in my neck, they dropped a couple of coils down, and the blood finds a way to reroute itself. That's it.
They fixed your nut through your neck.
Yes, sir. And some people get that through the groin, and knowing what I know now, how my neck felt, I'm glad they went through my neck.
But still, the fact that they could fix a nut through your neck, the future is now.
Yeah, it really. I mean, okay. So how wide's a vein? Like not, and they not only do they make coils that small, but they know where everything's connected, and they can actually like watch the stuff go in. I mean, it's not like they're, let me just guess which hole to drop this in. Yeah, it's all, they can, they've got a camera or whatever they've got. They can see contrast, and they can send dye down your veins. And I was walking slow for about 3 days, and then you'd never know after that.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah.
And do you have any indication of success?
We don't know. So, okay. So for people who don't know what we're talking about, I had
it's a lot of fun.
I had a procedure called a varicocele embolization. A varicocele is a varicose vein blocking the testicles. Usually it's the left testicle, and in some people it causes infertility, in some people it causes pain, and in some people they just never know. So they estimate that between 15 and 30% of men have this anyway, but like such a wide range, because if it's not causing a problem, people don't get tested.
I'm going to overshare and say that when you first announced this, I checked, and I think I have one too. There you go. Just wanted to put that out there.
So some people are in immense pain, and that's why they have this procedure done. I never had pain. And we found it by, we were trying to have a kid after a year. We tested me, and my sperm was a wreck. They look for three things for healthy sperm. They look for sperm count. They look for motility, which means whether they're just sitting on the couch or whether they're actually trying to get something done. And they look for appearance. And the thresholds on those is 20 million per milliliter as a count. Motility, they want around 35%. So really just a third of them doing something. And then appearance, they want 14% looking normal. Now, I don't know how you call 14% normal when 86% look like something else, but whatever, we'll go with it.
Would that be just the I don't know, the polywog resemblance?
I
Would
guess,
it like the roundness of the? I don't even know.
I don't know, but when I first went for the test, I was 19 million for a count, which is, my urologist said, well, that's basically 20 million. That's threshold. My motility was 25% or 26%, so less than ideal, and the appearance was 0%, so zero normal. So they're like almost impossible. So I said, well, let me make some changes. Let me make some lifestyle changes. I went from about a pot of coffee a day to a cup or two a day. Some days not having any. I cut way back on caffeine. I cut way back on alcohol rather than having 2 to 3 beers 2 to 3 times a week. I went down to a beer or two a week, and which I guess is not really that much, but I didn't clean up my diet like I should have. Typically they'd like you to lose weight, but you try paring way back on stimulants and losing weight while you're doing it.
Amen.
That's why you get skinny cokeheads and fat former cokeheads. But the next time I went in 3 months later, or 4 months later. They give you it takes new sperm 3 months to generate. So I went in 3 months later, and my count was 75 million. They like 20 to 50 million, and I was way up over that. My motility had almost tripled. They like, I was about 67%. They like 35%, so that was awesome. Appearance went from 0% normal to 1% normal. So like, okay, well, there's a problem. Now there are two two likely things. One is testosterone level, and the other is this varicocele. So, yeah, testosterone is easy to test. It's just a blood test, and that came out low normal to normal. The way they described it is like if you ask somebody what the average height of a man is, one person will say 5'7", and another person will say 5'9". Your testosterone is about 5'8", so pretty average. And
I'm trying to wrap my head around that analogy, but okay, keep going.
So it's it'd be a little short for the 5'9". For the person who thinks 5'9" is normal, it's a little low.
Okay.
But for the person who thinks 5'7" is normal, and they're both kind of right. It's in there somewhere. Okay. So it's in the low normal to normal range. And then, the appearance is nothing. So the next thing they do is they order an ultrasound, which is one of the more awkward positions I've ever been in as an adult. It's exactly what you think. They send you into the back room where a young lady with a computer and an ultrasound wand and a pile of gel says, lay down on this table. Here's a rolled up washcloth and a hand towel, and you're gonna lay down. You're gonna pull your pants down. You're gonna prop your testicles up on this rolled up washcloth, and then you're gonna cover yourself with the hand towel. And I'll be back in 5 minutes. And that's
because of course it's going to take 5 minutes for you to position your testicles just so on the washcloth.
Yeah, and the real fun part of that is laying there looking up at the ductwork, because for whatever reason the pillow on the table is right. It looks up on. Instead of just being a closed ceiling, that's the one spot that's open so that you can see the HVAC system. So,
I could at least put a picture up there.
Right, exactly. Whatever, people who are normally in for ultrasounds or, they're looking for babies or whatever, they'd like something pleasant to look up at too, I'm sure.
So you were in the same seat that a woman would sit in, right?
Yeah.
This is just all the same equipment.
I'm just the
stirrups. You had were your legs in the stirrups?
No, because I'm not giving birth. I'm just laying on a table.
I thought that they had the same kind of table because usually they use the ultrasound wands to actually get all up in there when they're looking.
Well, I didn't need that. I just had a table. But they, she took the wand, dipped it in the jelly, and
how much detail are we going into here?
Up under the towel. I'm laying there going, I know this isn't your whole day, but what's your night like when you get home? Hey, honey.
I have sympathy for both of you.
She said, no, this is just part of the job. We do it a lot. Okay.
So the short version is you don't know yet whether or not your sperm look normal.
Yeah. Right. I'll find out. I'll go back and get another test in 3 months.
Another look at the ceiling test?
No, another sperm test.
That's the other awkward test, right?
That really only involves me.
Got it. Understood.
Yeah, nobody has to be present for that. It was awkward the second time I took it because I guess somebody stopped up the toilet. So I was pacing around their waiting room for an hour while they cleaned up. Now, I think people deserve to know what one of these rooms looks like, because when you go to the place, it's just a reproductive center. So it's got like a normal waiting room, and there are couples waiting to talk to the doctor about their baby, and sometimes it's a woman with her mother, and they often will just get called out into the back. Not me. When you're getting a sperm test, what they do is they walk around the front of the counter, and they walk you outside of the office and down the hall, And they say, "Have you been celibate for 4 days?" And they hand you a cup, and you walk into a bathroom, and they close the door behind you, and they say, "When you're done, just put everything in that little carousel and close it." But when you get in the room, what you're looking at is they've got some folders with some magazines, nothing newer than about 1997.
This is well. Wait, I mean, I imagined that you were going to finish your initial sentence with, "They close the door behind you, a disco ball drops from the ceiling, the lights dim."
That would have helped the mood a little bit. But instead, they have these magazines from 1997. There's a big TV over the toilet, and facing that TV, there's just a standard like conference room chair with a doggy pee pad on it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure that very few people have used any of this stuff, given the prevalence of the internet on cell phones. You were brave to take a sip of coffee while I was.
I'm trying not to. I'm trying to listen without imagining. I'm trying to be somewhere else and here all at the same time.
But it's a pretty frightening room, and yeah, and then you just leave. Like, they don't want to see you again. You put your cup in the little carousel on the wall. It's like a milk delivery
You
box.
leave out a separate door than you came in.
You leave out the bathroom door, but they've brought you into a hallway. You don't go back into the office.
Well, can you imagine?
It's like, we all know what you just did.
Yeah, the walk of shame.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the walk of shame.
Well, and really, it's worse, because it's not like you just. It's not like you were just at. It's not like you just went home with somebody and got laid and you're leaving in the morning. It's just like, hey, yeah, we know you just jerked off in a public bathroom.
All right, so you get to do that again in 3 months. You're counting down the days till you get to relive that experience.
Yeah, it's been.
Sorry.
I wonder what they're like at the insurance company. They're like, again? Can't do it at home, huh? So how you been, Seth?
I've been good. I've been great. I don't know if I can top that, but I've been great.
So, while we're here, I want to talk about art and creation, because we've had a couple of big things happen this week. I don't even know if you're aware of. I found out like 10 minutes before we came on that Tom Wolfe died yesterday.
Yes, I did read that.
So, in an age, I guess this is a good place to start. In an age where we're losing our heroes, Gay Talese is still with us, and Joan Didion is still with us, but Tom Wolfe's gone, Hunter Thompson's gone, Jimmy Breslin's gone. That whole, almost that entire generation, that first generation of writers is no longer with us. And what's our responsibility to carry on? As our heroes die off, where do we pick up the torch?
Well, it depends who you mean by we.
Those are my heroes, and I mean, you've got some in your background, I'm sure, who have left us. I mean, your art's a little newer as far as that goes, but not by a lot.
I think in any discipline, I mean, to whether you're talking about writers, there's a bumper crop of talented writers who are carrying the torch for that kind of candid expository and quasi-investigative and just emotionally bare and in your face writing. We still have a ton of writers who can who can hang. It's just a question of the environment in which they are putting their work out into the world. It's very much well, I don't know if it's very much. It feels like the newer generation of writers is sort of casting their pearls before swine.
Maybe, yeah.
That's so I don't
Yeah, we're
so when
kind
you say
of,
when you say we, like, what do we do? Well, we try not to cold shoulder the next generation because they're
yeah,
out there.
it's true. They are. We just got to kind of not fuck up the legacy, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I mean, stir it up, but not fuck it up. Because, I mean, that's what they did, right? There were great writers before them, but they created something new, essentially.
well, sure, everybody wants to push the ball down the field,
Yeah.
and I think that's still happening. It's just a question of which way are you running? Some people think this is the right way to run, and some people are going the opposite direction. But everybody's moving the ball down the field.
And you don't really find out for another 30 or 40 years which is the right way to go.
There you go.
You know,
But
I mean,
in terms of
nobody in 1960 thought that Hunter and Hunter Thompson and Tom Wolfe were going to be the next great thing. You know, we found out in about 1980, 1985 that back in the 60s they were the next great thing. You know, nobody knew that it was going to last.
I don't know. I think Hunter S. Thompson will be revered for quite a while longer.
Yeah, but he wasn't initially, is what I'm getting.
Oh, I see.
Like,
what
we
you
didn't,
mean.
you know, we couldn't predict, like, so we don't know anybody creating something new now. You know, we're not going to know for another 20 years if what they created is worth sticking around.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, we're 25 years out of Nirvana, and we all thought that was going to stick around, and you got to explain to young kids what it was.
Well, I mean, that's still cyclical. I mean, that's right in my wheelhouse.
Right.
But part of my gig is explaining who Nirvana was, and there's definitely a resurgence there. That doesn't need a lot of help. That the music industry is cyclical without a lot of prodding, because there's much more of because it's still run by people who are not artistic themselves, and so all they can do is recycle. And so they have departments of people who are consciously deciding when to start recycling what. I feel like writing is a discipline in which that happens much more organically, and the cognoscenti will always gravitate towards the good, and then it will trickle down eventually. So it's not necessarily the same procedure, even if sometimes the same thing happens. Am I completely off base with that?
No, I think I get where you're going, and it's not as big a commercial apparatus, right? I mean, there are huge media companies behind writers as well. You know, Hunter S. Thompson was a magazine writer for decades.
Oh, maybe you're right. Okay,
but
I wasn't lumping Hunter S. Thompson in with like the lady who wrote Twilight.
Right, but
because you're right, the publishing houses do go through a cyclical push
but
yuck.
they're all but to your point about there being this big kind of machine, like we've got the machine is in writing as well. Like it's there, but the difference is you can't manufacture a Hunter Thompson because it's an individual, right? I mean, if you can create a musician, excuse me, or a musical artist without that individual having all the pieces, right? I mean, you know, you might edit somebody a little bit.
It's usually better if they don't.
You know, because you can take a Britney Spears and you know, write songs for her and teach her how to dance and auto-tune her voice and boom, you created something. You know, with the machine, that creation machine isn't isn't available to individual writers. Basically you get some editors, but why would you create a star if you have to heavily edit them in the writing world?
I see what you mean. It's not the same procedure, and
Right.
but like, what about do you read any of like Matt Taibbi's stuff? He's a Rolling Stone writer.
I just saw his. I just read the first two chapters of his new serialized book about the drug dealer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean like his older stuff about the financial crisis, like not.
So, yeah.
Okay, like I think he's a candidate for that style of writing. I think I wouldn't necessarily say he's the same. I think he's got his own voice.
Right.
But
well, and
I enjoy him.
And you all should, right? That's part of being a writer, is creating your own voice. If you sound too much like anybody else, people just dismiss you as whoever that was. Chuck Klosterman's another one.
There you go.
Definitely has his own thing going on.
But in terms of Nirvana, in terms of people who are influenced by that, who sound like that, you don't have to wait 30 years for that. The music industry was deliberately and intentionally recycling Nirvana while Nirvana was still Nirvana. And
right. Well, they weren't Nirvana for very long.
Well, and here we are 25-ish years later, and the stuff that is coming around now that has been influenced by that era, it has also been influenced by a ton of other stuff. And so it won't sound deliberate and derivative. It'll just kind of pay homage while still having a new voice, which is natural and good. So I'm okay with that.
The other thing I saw yesterday is somebody sold a painting for $157 million, which leads me to ask. So, not unlike an artist, and your wife is a painter and sculptor,
Yeah.
and so there's a marketplace, just like you for music, and the marketplaces are vastly different, but still both of you are what you'd call artists, right? So
I hope so.
What is, in a world where we have hunger and people without clean water, what is the price of art?
It doesn't matter if we're in a world of hunger or whether we're in utopia. The price of art isn't dictated by anything but what the person buying it is willing to pay for it. It's a completely artificial perception game. I mean, you said you saw how much did this painting that you read about sell for? 100 and how many million?
157.2.
All right. I mean, just so you bring up my wife, just this past week, she got a Google alert saying that one of her paintings that she sold years ago is for sale. This is the first time this has happened to her.
Oh, wow.
Where she saw it for sale on some site on the internet, and so she went and clicked. And this is the first time she's had one of the pieces that she sold direct to someone be offered for sale, and it's something like 6 or 7 times what she originally charged for it, and there are bids. So
wow. Well,
so she's like, well, on the one hand, hey, isn't this what we've always wanted? On the other hand, damn, I wish I had sold it for that.
Right, exactly.
But in terms of, how do you, the dichotomy of people are willing to pay for art in a world where people are starving.
Well, and that
has always been the case and will always be the case.
Right.
Hopefully it won't always be the case, but.
Yeah. And
for
art is
a
always
while yet,
important.
it's going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, and art is always important. Like we need it in our lives. Yeah, it's a part of us that can both. It's both within us from a passion and emotion standpoint, and it allows us some. It allows us some leisure. It allows us escape, right? So, emotionally and psychologically, it's really important for us.
I mean, yeah, okay. Sorry. I don't mean to say as if you're
Yeah,
saying something that I don't agree with. I absolutely do. It's that today, more so than at any other point in history, there's such a wide range of quality in anything you could perceive as art. I mean, if you're talking about writing, you're going from high poetry to absolute pulp, and there's a huge scale in between. If you're talking about music, we have officially entered a realm where most people can't tell the difference between music randomly generated by an AI or something that was actually constructed by a human being with intention. And with art, much the same. You've got Google's AI being experimented with, and it takes it makes collages of things it finds on the internet, and people who they show this to can't tell if it was a singular vision from one artist or if it was. So people's appreciation for the quality in art is at an all-time low. And people who are good at art, whatever art this is, are usually striving to achieve a higher and higher quality of communication in the work. So the longer somebody creates art, usually the higher quality of communication they are trying to send out. And the farther and farther society progresses, or maybe I quote, progresses, the harder it is for anyone to discern any communication through art or even know that that's part of what art involves. And so the actual audience that gets it, quotes, gets smaller and smaller. And so that regard,
does it get smaller
scarcity.
in raw numbers, or are we talking percentages of people to whom it's available?
I would say with the internet, the former. We've got raw numbers.
Okay.
Like the number of people out there who can get something. Every now and then there's an anomaly, and the news will help educate. Like
right.
The number of, let's use a recent example, the number of raw people who on their own thought that the new Childish Gambino video was genius skyrocketed in the first 24 hours because they suddenly read the news where everybody was breaking it down for you and explaining to you why it was genius. So 24 hours later, people who just watched it and maybe they thought it was fine, or maybe they didn't, or maybe they only got the obvious symbolism, which is, I mean, hello,
there's plenty
pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
And then but then all these articles came out explaining the subtleties and explaining everything that was inherent in this piece. And then everybody got on the bandwagon and started talking about genius, genius, genius. I don't really have a problem with that.
And then on top of that, what a lot of people aren't talking about is like his other life. He's a brilliant fucking comedian.
An actor, sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's some
he communicates
some
well.
Seriously,
yeah, he communicates
dark comedy in that video.
Yeah, I mean, he communicates at a very high level across a lot of different. Like as a human being, he communicates at a high level across different genres, which is
right. And
exciting.
But I guess what I'm saying is, and the longer he does this, I believe the higher and higher he will go with the quality of the communication he's putting out there.
Right.
But without help, the amount of people in his fan base, in his listenership, in his viewership, who will get everything he puts out there will be 1 to 2% on a good day. And where I'm going with all this is that in itself is scarcity in a way. And anytime you have scarcity, the value of something goes up. So no, there's only a few people in the world who would pay $157 million for any particular painting.
Right.
But to those few, to the less than 1% of people for whom the communication is received loud and clear, those people, whoever they are, obviously feel driven to acquire and value that art at the highest possible denomination because they feel that strongly about it and the communication has been received. So I don't think it has anything to do with starving people in that regard, in that sense.
Yeah, and now that we're talking about it, it occurs to me that people who have that kind of money to spend
don't care about starving people.
No, I was going to go the other way. If you have that kind of money to spend on art or a jet or something, you probably have a foundation of, put forth close to that much money in helping the world.
It'd be nice to think that, yeah.
I think a lot of people do. I mean, even honestly, just for a tax write-off.
Well, for some people, that's what it is. You're right.
Whatever your motivation, if you're helping people, I can't really fault you. I would love it. I would love for it to be out of love, but
idealistically, yes. But for everybody who fits into that category, there's also that awful dude Martin Shkreli who bought that one Wu-Tang album.
Yeah.
But didn't he have to give it away? Like when he was ordered to prison, didn't he have to give it up or something?
Oh, I'm not sure, but yeah, very likely.
Hey, it's available.
Yeah, at some cost. Yeah. So you've been pretty angry lately on your podcast. What's
Oh,
you've been? I feel like you got it out though. So what's pissing you off today?
Not much is pissing me off today. The anger that a couple of episodes of my podcast ago, I answered questions. I put it out there that people could ask me questions, and I had already been accumulating some questions for some time. And a big question, of course, kind of in the similar vein to what we're talking about, is people ask me why I don't have my stuff on streaming services. And that just put me into, we'll call it the capital T, the capital S, Spotify, capital R rant. And that's a case of a company coming along and the company exists to distribute art, but the company has positioned themselves as the entity that makes the money off of the art and not the artists. Getting back to what I said about my wife's work being resold for 6x. Well, in this respect, Spotify is the company that comes along and convinces every musician, hey, give us your stuff. And in a way, you could say that they're promising you pennies and making dollars. Actually, they're promising you fractions of pennies and making dollars off of anything that you quote unquote give them or allow them to use. And that in and of itself, if I was to observe a system in which that seemed proportional, because, hey, you got to have operating costs and they need the dollars to survive, and without them, people wouldn't be hearing it this way anyway. If that all seemed on the up and up, I would be far quieter about it, and might even have my stuff available on the services. But the way it is, Spotify is a company that is just bloated and
the overhead is
corrupt.
A little nuts. What about the exposure argument?
What exposure? But no.
Yeah, I mean somebody asked me about that, and I'm like, I don't know. that people hear your song who I don't know Spotify at all. I started on Pandora back in 2004 or whatever it was, when they were basically just the Music DNA project trying to figure out the AI for it. And that was a really good discovery engine for me. I could punch in Sean Mullins and the Grateful Dead and find other stuff that I enjoyed.
I remember that.
So
that was, and that when their aim was
right
to that end, I kind of got into it. And
so for people who, for people like, is that still a thing? Like, can people like accidentally find you on Spotify, and like, are you likely to randomly have an extra 1,000 people show up on your Patreon page because of it?
No. Well, first of all, because I'm not on Spotify, but
right. But you as a,
but I mean, you mean you, the proverbial you.
Yeah. I mean, as an artist who, isn't getting radio plays or millions of radio plays or whatever.
I am sure the scenario that you just described has happened at least once. So I can't say it doesn't happen.
Yeah, but
I believe that the likelihood
a handful
of
of times
being,
is never happening for, that's,
yeah, I don't think
zero.
it's any, I don't think there's a likelihood of that being the rule, because whereas the old Pandora, and I stress the old, and even better, like, did you ever know about Last.fm?
I had heard of them, but I have no idea what they did.
They were a British internet radio pioneer, again, back in the day, but they really they almost doubled as like a Wikipedia of music. Like anything you heard, you can click and you would get a ton of information about them. You could start to, be informed about them. You could look at their other music. It was very in depth, and you could also see who their influences were. I mean, it was a very organic website. Anyway, the curation factor, where you could actually get attached to and become a serious fan of whatever you happened to be enjoying that you just sort of randomly heard. Well, that's always been the game. I mean, that's since radio. Hey, I like this song, and then I'll wait for the DJ to say who it is. That has come down the pike, and that's what we're hoping to get from it now.
And I mean, for a long time though, there was no chance without big corporate backing that you were getting on the radio.
Well, sure, that's corrupt too.
Unless you knew
oh my
somebody,
God, please! Yeah. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm defending terrestrial radio. Goodness, no. But what I'm saying about the Spotify scenario you just described, it's so big, and playlists are not special anymore. It's just the way it's done. It's like the entire planet is on shuffle constantly, and there is so much quantity.
Yeah.
And it is being compartmentalized so much that it is becoming so homogenized, so flattened, that the chances of you listening to anything on Spotify for a serious length of time and having something hit you, having something reach you, having something jump out at you, having the quality of communication sink in is so slight, because most people are just keeping it on as something. I know I like this kind of music, and it's all interchangeable. They're not necessarily consciously thinking it's all interchangeable, but if you question them, you find out, I don't know the names of any of these artists. I don't know the names of any of the songs I've listened to for the past week. I just know that I keep it on this station. I just know that I keep it on this keyword. So it's all just washing over
the way we used to do with the radio at an office, right? We just have it coming out over the speakers. It would just be on, it would just be on 95 FM, and that's where it was. And all of a sudden you've been working for a month, and you're like, why do I know all the words to these songs?
But I don't know anything about them.
Right.
I couldn't tell you who it was. So there's no attachment.
Right.
Because of all this quantity, there's no quality at all. And so the chances of somebody stopping what they're doing to go and look and find out the name of the artist, do a Google search to find out who that artist is, if they have other material, the chances of achieving any sort of connection get smaller and smaller. So this idea of it's great exposure becomes less and less true the bigger this juggernaut becomes. So no, I really don't believe in it.
So how are you getting out there? I mean, I've been on your email list probably since you had one.
Probably.
I mean, high-speed internet wasn't ubiquitous when,
No.
when we started. People, and this kind of thing. Yeah, Howard Stern was the only one doing this 20 years ago.
Yeah, true.
And so how are you all this time later getting new people finding you? I mean, you've come off tour because it's not worth it anymore, and you used to basically live in your van. Would you have like 3-4 years there where you were just kind of driving around?
Over 4. I mean, the better part of that 5th year was in there too. Well, it was a different time.
Yeah, well, it was. So how are you? How are people finding you now?
The ways they always have, really. Okay, so the mailing list is still there. It's smaller now, but it's still there. Mm-hmm. And one thing that hasn't changed is email. I mean, you can't do much to, people have tried, but you can't do much to email. It is what you can put pictures in it, and that's about all you can do.
Right, but you can, that's an easy forward, that's an easy, hey, if you have a friend you think would like me, just forward this email. Yeah, but I know that doesn't happen as much as you'd like, but it's still there.
It's still there, sure. Yeah. There's always that sort of thing. So I've got email, the email list. I still let people know what I do through that. Social media is obviously a thing. It's sharing stuff on Facebook is still a thing. And it's something that I was not embracing for a long time. Uh-oh. You froze. Are you still there?
I'm still here, yeah. You got me? You seeing my hands wave and everything? I still got you.
You are a fuzzy... There. Oh, there you go. You're back.
All right. I'm back.
Good thing this is not a video cast. So, edit.
Or not. That was amusing enough, right?
So yeah, I've started using Facebook for what I've realized it's meant for. It's it's an advertising platform.
Yeah.
And once
are you using Facebook ads? Yes, you are, because I've seen a sponsored post from you.
Yeah, and
I've seen a couple of those.
It's once you realize that's what you're supposed to do, it took away all the friction that I was feeling about it.
Yeah.
Because what every artist was getting upset about with Facebook is that nobody would see our posts anymore. Facebook did a big push to get everybody who was an artist to use a page instead of a personal page. And slowly they decreased the reach of those pages, and now they want us to advertise. And people, myself included, just got very hung up on the fact that we had been baited and switched. But once I got over that and realized, hey, this is the cheapest advertising on the planet, and it is actually effective, okay. And ever since I've tried to flip that switch in my brain, I'm using it to a lot more effectiveness.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it, from Facebook's standpoint, hey, this is a free service. We're not going to let you have the same exposure as individuals who aren't selling anything. You're
exactly. Yeah. So once I stopped resisting that and going, duh, of course this is the way it is.
Right.
It's been great, and it's been really great. So I've started putting up videos of my process, showing songs in various stages of completion and using it to let people in and so that getting people interested in what I do. And that's been fantastic. So that's been a lot of it. I have my Patreon page, which is the bread and butter of it all. That's where the super fans go to actually get all the content that I make. And what else? That's really been the crux of it. And also through Patreon, that's where I do my performances. I mean, I'm not on the road anymore, but I do web concerts because it's the new touring, or at least it's my new touring.
What platform do you use for a web concert?
So far, I've been using Concert Window.
Okay.
And it's been pretty decent.
Okay. I've never taken part in these. Yeah, I don't have. When I adapted to this online world, I didn't really take video with me. My brain didn't come along to video, so like I don't sit and watch long form anything.
I don't either. So you're right. I agree. It was not a natural thing.
Yeah, having a one-on-one conversation, like I'm good. You send me a YouTube video that's longer than 3 minutes, I'm not watching it.
I'm kind of on board with that.
So the likelihood that I'm going to sit and watch a web concert, for me, that's unlikely. Just for me. What's it like from your standpoint? Are you playing to? I mean, do you get to see faces?
No. Let me finish describing this.
Yeah.
It's not optimal, for sure, because it's me playing alone and here in my studio, and the energy of it, like there's no applause when I'm done with a song. It can feel it. I should say it used to feel a little funny. I'm used to it now. I've been doing it for a few years now, so I'm used to it, and the lack of dynamic between audience and performer it doesn't bother me anymore. But I love performing live. I mean, that's where it is.
That's where your energy is, and I mean
that's where anyone's energy is.
You interact so well with an audience, yeah.
Well, thank you.
And
but it's just so.
I mean, that's
hard.
How we connected, yeah. Touring's got to suck now. We don't see anybody come through. I mean, we see big acts, but I don't. I haven't been to a big concert in
the quandary is
decades. Yeah.
That you, in a city where you have 50 people on your mailing list, for a smaller independent act,
right?
You'd love to think, okay, hey, 50 people, but here, buy your ticket, come to the show, and you'll get an amazing show, and I'll make a living. But there are so many variables. You simply cannot assume that all those people are going to be able to come on the day you're coming through town. Just because those people liked you 5 years ago doesn't mean their lives haven't changed to the point. Maybe they have a baby. Maybe they have a job that makes them work at night. Who knows? So you keep adding in all the factors, and you have to assume that a third or less of those people will be able to come to any particular performance. So, now you're looking at a crowd of in the teens.
Yeah. Well, and even
if each of those people will bring someone else, but still, you can't rely on it.
Yeah. Well, and maybe, even if you were to pre-sell 50 tickets for a show to make it worth your while, or pre-sell whatever it was going to take, 50 to 100, you can't just be like, oh, well, I guess I'm good in Omaha this week.
You could.
You got to.
I've tried all this,
I know.
And the thing is that the pre-sale thing is a great idea, but no venue is going to play ball with somebody who says, I've pre-sold 50 tickets. I mean, and because the venue is going to say, well, great, so you've got the money for 50 tickets, and I'm not going to see the money for that. And it sounds like that's your only fan base in my city, so it's not like I'm going to sell many more tickets.
Right.
And you're probably going to want a cut of those tickets. So the club's going to come back at you with, I won't make any money on this. and you could be the next Jimi Hendrix, but I'm just not interested.
Right. You got to rent the room or whatever. Yeah.
You have to, you can't rent a room if you're only going to bring 50 people.
Right.
It's not cost effective. So the only thing it leaves you with is doing house concerts.
Right.
House concerts are ideal if you know you're only going to bring anywhere from 20 to 50 people. In fact, they're perfect. But then you need to go through the social side of things, which is convincing somebody to open their home to strangers, which is so hard. It takes the certain kind of person who loves hosting, but you also need to find that certain kind of person who loves hosting, who understands that it's not a party.
Yep.
And getting that, the Venn diagram of one circle of people who love hosting and the circle of people who understand it's not a party, the overlap is very, very slight. There is this sliver of people who make ideal house concert hosts.
Well, and
so
then
it's just really hard to do.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you get the people who come have to understand it's not a party.
Well, if the host provides a good example, everybody wants to respect the host, even if they don't respect the performer. Like we in Western civilization, mostly we've been raised to respect the home of somebody we're a guest. You know, if we're a guest in their home, most of us mostly feel a compulsion to behave the way the host expects us to. So that's usually not a problem. Usually, it has been. It definitely has been. I have had to pull rank on hosts. In fact, you were at one of these shows. Like, I can count the number of times I've ever had to do this on one hand, and I think you were at one of the shows where I had to do it. Am I wrong about this?
I don't remember if I was at one house concert of yours, and it was in Central New York. It was
okay, it's the one I'm thinking of. You were there, and
the host was a marching band person. Yeah, okay.
I had to lay down the law in the middle of you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so you understand. But that's not the norm. That is absolutely not the norm. Most people who do a house concert absolutely, if they're the sort of person who fits in that Venn diagram that I'm talking about, they're great. A well-done house concert is one of the best ways to experience live music ever. But you can't just book one house concert in Omaha and that assume that you're going to have a tour out of it.
Right.
So every time
unless you live in Omaha, which you don't. So
every time you come up with a solution, you have to. There's a bigger problem that comes along with it. So I haven't given up. I keep on the lookout, and I keep looking for ways to bring music out there again, and it's going to happen. Personally, it was harder for me to tour the past few years because my wife and I had a diabetic dog. Yeah. She passed away, but you know, for a few years there, even though I was ready to tour, we kept trying to see if there would be a way we could bring our act on the road, because I wasn't about to just hop in a car for a month and go alone. There was no way. I know a diabetic pet is a tough thing to deal with. So I was like, all right, one day she won't be around, and then we'll get back on the road again. So that day is finally happening, and now I'm slowly putting the pieces back together for that.
Now, speaking of healthy pets, how's Purple?
Not diabetic. Purple is my dog. She's just over a year old, and she's at the groomers. And so I'm sure she's fine.
Fine today. It's a day-to-day thing.
Oh no, she's great.
Okay.
She's awesome. Our last dog, the one who got the diabetes, she was a tough little critter, and she had a bristly personality to some. Purple is she loves everybody. She is just nothing but she's a little furry slinky of love. So I have no qualms about the idea of bringing her along to a house concert, as long as nobody's allergic to dogs.
I think you met Rufus like right after we got him, and he was still a pile of anxiety. And I have a think I have a memory of him breaking a mirror in a bedroom.
Yeah,
yeah, you
I remember.
that?
Yes.
He is about the chillest thing now. He's probably 10 and a half. We don't know for sure. But he gets up excited in the morning for a new day. Other than that,
He's a dignified elder statesman.
Yep, he just conks out. Yeah, we're actually heading up your way this weekend.
I thought it was next week.
Well, we leave Friday. We leave here Friday, and we come back here next Tuesday. So our little get together is next Monday. If you'd come out and join us.
I teach in Rochester on Mondays. So if I get there, it's gonna depend on how late y'all are drinking.
Okay, we might be drinking reasonably late, and if not, then we might. We'll be in Rochester over the weekend because we have a wedding out there. That's why we're coming up so early in the year.
That's why you're coming up in the first place?
Yeah, normally we come up like August, September, when we can guarantee that we'll be happy with the weather. Hasn't started snowing that early yet, but it looks like it's going to be at least reasonably warm.
Yeah, it's been rough. It's been a rough winter. I mean, it's like 6 months of awful.
Yeah, we actually had accumulated snow here for the first time in 30 years. This winter.
Really?
Yeah. We woke up on a Wednesday morning and there were a couple inches of snow on the ground. And we don't have things like salt trucks and plows, so just the city shut down for a few days.
Oh wow!
But it had been so long. 1989 was the last measurable snow here. So, I mean, that's so long ago that there are people who have been born, gone through school, gone to college, come back, got married, had a couple of kids, got divorced, and still not ever seen snow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, no casualties, right?
No. I mean, they shut down a couple of the freeways for the weekend. Some of the islands went and just grabbed sand from the marshes and put it on the bridges so that they could access the city.
Okay.
Because there's only one way on and off a lot of the islands, so it basically shut down everything. There were a couple of places open. We went out the night after, so we got the snow Wednesday morning. We went out Thursday night, and the roads were okay. We were sliding a little bit around downtown. We know how to drive in it. We know that really just go slow because
I'm not laughing at you, but I'm laughing at you because of something that we communicated about a little while ago. You keep saying like the roads and the snow, and we were sliding around and we are like, oh.
my accent is
I'm your host, Josh Shear.
You should hear me in a room full of hillbillies. Oh my God, it's terrible.
So that's really the only syllable that I hear you getting Southern on, and you've been down there for a while now.
Yeah, we're coming up on 4 years. When I'm speaking to other people with the accent, it comes out in a hurry. When I have a lot of people around me with the accent, it comes out even faster and worse.
I sympathize. I do the same thing.
And it's only this one. I never wound up with that Boston accent that my parents had. I never got that upstate New York accent. I never got that elementary. I never got that extra syllable in there. I had tubes in my ears a bunch of times as a kid, and I wound up going through speech therapy in elementary school. And
okay.
So
they got you early, and so you were cured.
Yeah. Well, they specifically they sent me home with a workbook or whatever for the week, and I showed it to my parents, and this is like second grade or whatever, and they started helping me. And I went back the next week, and the speech therapist called my parents and said, "Don't help him anymore."
I don't know how to tell you this, but you're making him worse. We're fine.
It was vowels specifically. It was dog,
oh, really?
Dog and doll. And
my son talks fine. There's nothing wrong with my son's speech. I have no idea if that's how your parents speak. I'm sorry. I'm just imagining the phone call.
Yeah, it's like cause they sent me home. The O sound. We say dog and we say doll. It's an open vowel, but in Boston or New York, it's a closed sound. Like almost everything has a W after it.
Oh yeah. Well, in where you live now, it's an AU.
Yeah.
Dow.
Ow. Yeah.
Host.
But anyway, we were out that night, and we managed to park a block from where we were going, which is not normal. And we got out of the car, and everything was packed over with ice. There was sand in front of the excuse me, I don't know which building it is, but it's a federally owned building. So they had sand out in front of that, but it's the only building that had sand out in front. But other than that, there's like a half an inch of ice everywhere, and it was just slip sliding, getting to dinner.
That can be really dangerous down there.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember out in California, I mean, every time it would rain, people would die. Just people didn't know how to drive. Like,
yeah.
What? So I can only imagine that if you've never driven in ice before down there, like some people just freaked out, didn't know what to do with their brakes and hit things.
Yeah, most people just stayed off the road.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah. So good for them. We went to one of the few restaurants that stayed open, and they regretted staying open because they didn't realize how many of their people took the bus to work. So with the buses not on the roads, like, we don't have anybody working.
How long did this last? Was it just like a week or a few days?
Yeah, it was like 4 days, 5 days. So we just got the snow the one day, but it stayed cold. So it wasn't until everything had finally melted on its own that everything opened back up.
Hardware stores don't carry any like salt or anything. It's just unheard of. Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean, 30 years in between needing it. Why would you?
Yeah, I guess so. Huh. Careful down there, man.
Yeah. Thankfully I work from home, so the power's on. I'm good. True
that. Hey, tell me what's behind you. Are those all from the Masons?
Yeah, this is all Masonic stuff. This is I don't know, you can kind of see that. That's my grandfather's 32nd degree certificate. That's my 32nd degree certificate. And then this is just kind of this is the Rules of Order course, the etiquette course.
So you're only at 32. They haven't let you in on the good stuff yet.
Only at 32. Well, you can't ask for 33. So that's
they just have to give it to you.
Yeah, that one's
They tap you on the shoulder 20 years from now and say, "You're ready."
Maybe. I know guys who've been in 50 years. And there's never get. I mean, I probably won't ever. It's a matter of service.
You have a
craft.
podcast. Something tells me that does not put you in the running.
No,
he's got a big mouth.
No, there are plenty of Masonic podcasters who are well on their way, but it's. You get asked for service to the craft, basically. So, I'd have to go through being a big shot at the state level and probably putting together a book, which I may do actually, because I've got a pile of stuff from my lodge in New York and a pile of stuff, and somebody else is compiling stuff from my lodge here.
Are you serious? You're going to write a book?
I'm more going to edit a history, I think.
That's still pretty ambitious, man. That's great.
We have so the lodge I belong to in New York started in 1853, and I have about 3 4-inch binders full of paperwork that we've dug up, plus whatever I found in public records. So, yeah, including newspapers and that kind of stuff. So we've got a fair bit that we can put together. And somebody in our lodge right now here in Georgia who's going, we've been around since 1840, and he's going through all the minutes books and typing up notes. And so we're gonna collaborate on putting all that stuff together once he's done going through them. But, yeah.
How long do you assume this is going to take?
Not as long as you'd think. I mean, I've spent many hours sorting through the stuff I have on New York. So it's just a matter of figuring out what I'm going to do with it and how I'm going to organize it, and then it'll just be sitting down and doing it. So in that case, 10 years, because I got to sort through it and sit down and do it. But
Boy.
it's probably 50 hours of work, but 10 years.
Decade, give or take.
Yeah. The one down here, it'll be up to the guy who's going through stuff. He isn't sure I'm fine if he just sends me raw notes. That's basically what he's been doing. Is he's been going through the old minutes books, and 1840 they weren't typing their minutes. And so he's going through and he's taking notes on the interesting stuff that happened and all that stuff. And he's just, he's presenting it orally, but he's got typed up notes. He's thinking that he wants to type up a narrative rather than just give me the notes, but I may convince him to just give me the notes.
Well, yeah, you should do the narrative if you're the one who's actually.
Yeah, we put him on it too. He's doing he's doing all the work. All I'd be doing is, editing it. He's reading all the stuff.
Oh, I get it. So, all right, that's his capacity. I see.
Yeah, so I just asked him to give me the stuff, and I'll put it together. And
so, is there already a publisher, or
no? But I'm sure we could find it. I'm sure we could find a Masonic publishing house because they exist.
Oh.
Yeah, everybody's got the way Freemasonry is broken up is every state has its own Grand Lodge. So every state has a different set of bylaws and constitutions and rules of ethics and all that stuff. So somebody's got to put all that stuff together.
Okay. This goes beyond like distribution of groundwork chores and some days
right.
I don't know where I'm going with this. What do you mean in terms of like
so we have like different states have different charities, and we are effectively just an organization. So every organization has to have a charter and a set of bylaws and
well, sure, that much
all
I
that
understand.
stuff. Okay, yeah. So we have to get that published in book form to distribute, and they do that on the Grand Lodge level as well. So we don't have we somewhere have a printed list of bylaws for like our individual lodge, but only like 150 people need that at any given time. We can just run off a copy.
I guess my question is, are you telling me that like when you say bylaws are different from state to state, you say when you mean like bylaws like no white shoes on Tuesdays,
well,
and but in Maryland white shoes on Tuesdays are fine.
So in Georgia you can become a Mason at 18. In New York at 21. in Georgia you can't be gay and be a Mason. It's the same in only like 3 or 4 other states. And then on top of that, we have on top of that, there are like Grand Lodges recognize each other like nations recognize other nations' governments. So California doesn't like the no gay statute, so I can't go sit in a lodge in California. Like they don't recognize me as a Georgia Mason. They don't recognize me as the same organization. Basically, they're sanctioning us.
I understand.
Okay.
So is there ever any national like Masonic rib cook-off where you all get together in like Texas and fight it out? Or
no, that would be awesome though. But we can do that on a lodge level.
I think I have an idea for your book.
That sounds like a great fundraising opportunity. Just have lodges cook off against each other.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, people lodges do like fundraisers with they get a pork shoulder, they get a Boston butt, and they'll spend a day or two smoking them up and selling the finished product for $25, or they'll sell sandwiches for a fundraiser, because you can get if you're ordering 500 of them, you don't pay $25
I get
for
it.
for a roast, yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Well, hey, happy to help.
Yeah.
In this corner, North Carolina. In this corner, Georgia.
Yeah.
No, not appropriate. Sorry.
Yeah. Maybe, some rough and tumble guys, for sure, in some of those lodges. I visited one lodge here when I first moved here. I wasn't sure which lodge I was going to join, so I visited one, and I called them ahead to say, hey, I got my New York dues card. I'm coming in for a visit. They said, do not wear a jacket and tie. So okay, so I got down there, and they were all coming in off of tree stands and out of the fields, and a lot of them in people in camo overalls, and people just and that's just that lodge's personality.
Got it.
My lodge, we wear the officers wear tails. We wear tuxes with tails.
No white shoes.
Whatever shoes you
Tuesdays.
want. Whatever shoes you want.
Cool.
Hey, I know that ended kind of abruptly, but I hope you enjoyed it. We kept talking for a while, and stuff that maybe shouldn't have been on the podcast, so we just whatever. But hope you enjoyed the chat with Seth. I promise I will get back regular with these now that I've figured out how to make this stuff work. And hey, enjoy. We'll see you next time, huh? A Better Humanhood production.